And we're going to begin this hour with the latest from Minneapolis. Well, striking a conciliatory tone, President Trump says he wants to see a full investigation into the shooting death of Alex Pretti by Border Patrol agents. His first public comments on Pretti's death come as a report from the Department of Homeland Security is revealing more about who was involved in his killing.
And with tensions already high, a frightening scene unfolded at a Minneapolis town hall overnight. A man rushed Democratic Representative Ilhan Omar while she was speaking at a podium and sprayed her with an unknown substance. Omar, who's an immigrant from Somalia who became a U.S. citizen at age 17, has been the subject of repeated criticism from President Trump. NBC News Washington reporter Alice Barr joins us now with more on all of this. Alice, good morning.
Good morning, Joe and Savannah. The latest developments in Minneapolis come as the White House has been trying to lower the temperature, changing up leadership on the ground and taking steps toward working with state and local officials.
And DHS Secretary.
In a new sign of the boiling tensions in Minneapolis, Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar confronted at a town hall overnight by a man who tried to spray her with something before being dragged out and arrested.
We're going to keep talking.
Omar, a frequent target of criticism from President Trump, including last night, hours before the incident.
We're letting some great people come in. They have to show that they can love our country. They have to be proud. Not like Ilhan Omar.
Omar has pushed back before, saying she has an unwavering love for America. Right before the confrontation, she called for the resignation of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, part of a growing chorus from both sides of the aisle in the wake of 2 deadly shootings in Minneapolis by federal law enforcement in 3 weeks.
I've lost confidence in her. I had high hopes for her and the department, and I've been disappointed.
President Trump standing by Noem.
I think she's doing a very good job. The border is totally secure.
That as the president backed a full investigation into 37-year-old ICU nurse Alex Pretti's fatal shooting, while asked if he agreed with some of his administration officials casting Pretti as a domestic terrorist in the early stages.
I haven't heard that, but certainly he shouldn't have been carrying a gun.
Local officials say Pretti was legally carrying his gun, and new details from a preliminary internal Customs and Border Protection review NBC News obtained note that in the struggle, 2 officers fired their weapons 5 seconds after an agent yelled that Pretti had a gun, and that one of the agents then said he had Pretti's gun after the shots were fired. At least 162 House Democrats are now backing an effort to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Noem, while the battle over funding her department could lead to a partial government shutdown at the end of this week, with Democrats demanding changes to immigration enforcement operations.
Alice, we also have a legal update on a case that's playing out over the federal law enforcement presence in Minnesota. What can you tell us about that?
So state officials in Minnesota requested a temporary restraining order, arguing the Trump administration ordered the surge of federal law enforcement to Minneapolis to punish the state for having sanctuary laws. A judge has ordered that the federal government has to address that claim by 7 o'clock tonight, guys.
All right, Alice, thank you so much.
For more on this, let's bring in NBC News senior national politics reporter Jonathan Allen. Jonathan, good morning. Great to see you. So as we heard from Alice there, President Trump now at odds with several lawmakers, including from his own party, over Secretary Kristi Noem. Yesterday, it seems, as Alice just explained, he starts kind of shifting his strategy here on immigration in Minnesota. However, this is not a president who likes to admit defeat, right? Do you think Noem's resignation is a realistic possibility at all while she has President Trump's backing, as we heard there?
Good morning, Savannah. Good morning, Joe. I do not think that as long as she has President Trump's backing that her resignation is likely to occur. That said, President Trump has frequently changed his mind on a dime about about who he wants in cabinet roles and other jobs. So, look, she seems to be safe for right now. You heard the president making the argument in that clip that the southern border is secure, which is one of his favorite things to talk about in terms of accomplishments of things that he had promised during the campaign. Members of the Senate, Republican members of the Senate, calling for her to resign or for her to be fired. I don't think that's going to move him unless it was an overwhelming group within the Republican conference in the Senate. That said, you never know with Trump. He could turn on Noam in an instant.
Yeah, and John, I mean, this may all come down to political pressure. I mean, from a political perspective, the immigration crackdown in Minneapolis is not popular. Polls show a lot of disapproval, signs it could even be hurting the president's overall approval rating. So how do you think some of this pushback from within his own party could add to that? But more than that, do you get the sense more and more Republicans in Congress are thinking about this when it comes to their own reelection chances in November, and that may motivate them to speak out more?
I think certainly the president heard, and we've reported at NBC that he heard from members of Congress over the weekend that they were upset and concerned about what they'd seen in the videos with regard to Alex Pretti's shooting. I would just caution on this in terms of the midterms and in terms of the political pressure from Republicans in Congress. The vast majority of Republicans in the House are not in seats that are in danger in the midterms. So the way that the Republican conference acts tends to be much more responsive to pressures in a primary. And President Trump's base, the MAGA base, is still very much behind what is going on in terms of the deportation campaign, the mass deportation campaign across the country. So, until that changes, most Republicans in Congress are going to back a harsher crackdown, not a lesser crackdown.
Before we let you go, John, I do want to ask you about a little bit of other news from Washington. This is family members of two men from Trinidad who were killed in a U.S. strike on an alleged drug boat in October. Our viewers probably remember there was quite a few of those. They sued the U.S. government yesterday. The wrongful death lawsuit, that's what it is. It's the first to be filed against the Trump administration for this military campaign on these types of boats in the Pacific. Some lawmakers have pushed for oversight of these strikes. That was back in December. Do you think that this puts pressure back on Congress to renew their push for oversight when it comes to something like this?
I don't. I think that the president has the support, again, of most of the Republicans in Congress. In fact, all of the Republicans in Congress support him to some degree. Many of them support what he did in Venezuela, and certainly, in terms of the boat strikes, they seem to be much more comfortable with that than the removal of Nicolas Maduro from Venezuela, the Venezuelan leader who the United States captured and brought to the U.S. So, I don't think that we're likely to see significantly more oversight. It's possible that one of Trump's critics in Congress could try to do that with a committee, but I don't see any real action taking place.
All right, Jonathan Allen, thank you so much.
In just a few hours, the Federal Reserve Board is set to meet to discuss interest rates, and it's widely expected to keep them unchanged. That is, despite some unceasing pressure from President Trump for the central bank to cut rates.
That political tension, though, that Joe just mentioned, that could overshadow today's decision. Chair Jerome Powell was recently subpoenaed by the Justice Department over the Fed's renovation project, while the president indicated last week that he'd narrowed down the search for Powell's successor. Powell's removal as chairman appears to be all but certain when his term ends in May. It does remain unclear, though, whether he will see out the remainder of his term as governor. That doesn't end until 2028.
Investopedia's editor-in-chief and People Inc.'s chief business editor, Caleb Silver, joins us now to preview this. So we've seen some incremental cuts over the last, few months, but we're not expecting it this time. Explain to us, remove the politics from this, just economically, why we won't probably see any cuts today.
Yeah, the Fed is what it calls neutral interest rates right now. It's watching the labor market closely, and we keep hearing about more and more layoffs. Amazon this morning, UPS yesterday. It's watching the unemployment rate at 4.4%, but it's also seeing that inflation is taming a little bit. It's not that it's going down too much, but it is rising at a slower rate. So the Fed wants to keep this balance right now because if you look at the headline numbers in the economy is growing right now. No reason to lower rates, which could stoke inflation, even though the president and his administration would like lower interest rates. We're not going to get an interest rate cut today. 99% chance, no cut. 100% chance the president will not like that. 110% chance, plenty of drama at the Fed at the press conference following today's decision.
Does any of the political drama playing out in the background we just mentioned impact the Fed's decision making?
Not at all. And you're going to hear Fed Chair Powell asked about that repeatedly in the press conference following the decision. And he will say steadfastly, politics has nothing to do with this. We're trying to do the right thing by the American people by keeping monetary policy right where it is right now. We seem to be in an okay place. He'll be asked 100 times, and 100 times he will not comment on it.
When it comes to just everyday folks managing their bills and their finances, obviously in the short term, they wouldn't expect much of a change. But just looking down the road this year, I mean, just what's your advice to people? What should they be looking out for?
Yeah, we're going to have a slow creep of interest rates lower and down and to the right. You mentioned that the Fed Chair Powell's term ends in May. We're probably going to hear, maybe even today, about who the president's nominee to replace him is going to be. Whoever that is going to also want lower interest rates. So rates are going to go down, just not a lot. What does that mean? It means that the money you have in the savings account right now, if it's high yield, 3 to 4%, that's not going to get higher. It's probably going to get lower. Your credit card APRs may get lower, and we might finally see mortgage rates tick down, that 30-year below 6%, stoke the housing market. But it's not going to be immediate. It's not going to happen at this meeting. Maybe if you look out in June or April, we'll get a couple of baby cuts, maybe 1 or 2 before the end of the year. But rates are kind of going to be where they are right now through the balance of this year. Next year, you're going to see lower interest rates.
How do we anticipate Wall Street reacts to this?
Well, Wall Street's already reacted, and they know that the rates are going to eventually head lower. Stock market at another record high. Despite all the concerns, despite all the worries about the economy, corporate profits are looking good. Huge day for corporate earnings today as well.
All right. Caleb Silver, thank you so much.
Well, the NTSB has released its blistering final report on the mid-air crash between a passenger plane and an Army helicopter that killed 67 people in Washington just over 1 year ago.
In a public hearing, federal investigators said that multiple systemic failures led to the crash. They warned that a, quote, culture of complacency could lead to more incidents at other airports if no improvements are made. NBC News senior correspondent Tom Costello has the details.
Newly released NTSB video capturing the mid-air crash at Reagan National Airport 1 year ago this Thursday. An Army helicopter crashing into an American Airlines regional jet. All 67 people died. With family members in the room, NTSB investigators identified a long list of contributing factors for the crash.
There is no singular person to blame for this. These were systemic issues across multiple organizations.
New NTSB animation shows what air traffic controllers saw that night. The view from the plane's cockpit as the chopper suddenly appears at the last second, and the chopper view as it crashed into the passenger plane. Investigators determined the chopper was flying 100 feet too high, relying on altimeters that the Army knew were inaccurate. The chopper also flying with its ADSB precise location transmitter turned off. And despite 15,000 helicopter and plane incidents since 2021 at DCA, the FAA had ignored controller warnings that planes and choppers were sometimes just 75 feet apart.
We should be angry, because for years no one listened. This was preventable.
The FAA has since restricted chopper flights around Reagan and says it's evaluating other potential hotspots nationwide. Kristen Miller-Zahn lost her brother Dustin in the crash.
I hope to see that nobody else has to go through what all our families have gone through, because it's an unbearable tragedy every single day.
One other aviation note, that is, UPS says it has now fully retired the MD-11 cargo plane. That was the plane involved in that crash in Louisville, Kentucky back in November that killed 22 people. That specific plane was 34 years old. FedEx also flies the MD-11. It's grounded right now. FedEx says it's working with Boeing and the FAA to safely return the MD-11 to service one day. Back to you.
All right, Tom, thank you. Well, let's bring in NBC News aviation analyst Jeff Guzzetti for more on this final report. When it comes to this plane crash, Jeff, good morning. Just tragic, really, the NTSB really using strong language in this emotionally charged hearing. One board member even going as far as to say, I am sorry for you as the pages of these reports are written in your family members' blood. And just got to be so tough to hear what we heard there in that piece, that this was preventable. What surprised you in these 500 pages of this report?
Good morning, Savannah. Yeah, so it was a long board meeting yesterday. They covered a lot of ground. The couple of things that surprised me the most was how busy it was, how that controller was working, I think, 6 airplanes and 5 helicopters at the same time. And also that he wasn't really getting much help from the tower manager or from the operations supervisor. The tower was fully staffed, but there was just a complacency, a cultural drift over the past few years that led to this accident.
Jeff, my understanding is that controller, it was 12 aircraft total, 7 planes, 5 helicopters. Is that situation unique to Reagan National Airport? I mean, how much should travelers worry about something like that?
I don't know if it's unique. It was certainly prevalent at National's tower for years leading up to this. And the morale of the tower was blown in 2019 when the FAA downgraded it from a 10 to a 9, which meant salaries were cut. I don't think flyers should be scared to fly into National. It is safe, but it could be safer. And I think this accident will really put the spotlight on making National Airport a much safer airport than it was.
In that vein, we know Congress introduced a bill that would require aircraft to have advanced locator systems to help avoid collisions. Some of the details there with things that seem to be not working properly in the helicopter, I think, are probably pretty stunning for our viewers. Do you think that this report ends up sparking change, sparking enough change, I guess I should say, to make sure something like this never happens again?
I think so, Savannah. I think that the NTSB did a thorough job here. 32 recommendations to the FAA, I think 8 to the U.S. Army, and I think Congress is listening. It's close. It's in their backyard. The years and years of degradation of the operations and the busyness of National Airport and this accident are all combining to I think that will prod Congress to write into law a lot of these recommendations.
All right, Jeff Guzzetti, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Feels like there is no end in sight for this relentless winter weather. Millions of people are still under extreme cold warnings from the Great Lakes to the Gulf Coast. And amid those freezing temps, the eastern half of the U.S. is still trying to clean up after this weekend's massive snowfall.
Yeah, this lasting impact of the storm, it's also becoming clear with reports of at least 51 weather-related deaths across the country. And this brutal stretch of cold is set to continue with record lows, possibly all the way into next week.
NBC News correspondent George Solis joins us now from Nashville with the latest. George, good morning. I mean, Tennessee is one of the places hit hardest by the storm, especially when it comes to the loss of electricity. How are people managing this frigid cold when, in a lot of homes, you need electric power to get that heat?
Yeah, good morning, Joe and Savannah. Yeah, it's still very much frozen here. As you can see, it's been a slow recovery process because roads are still frozen, just like the sidewalks are still frozen. There's still a lot of frozen tree debris, which is very heavy to move. At last look this morning, there's still more than 100,000 people without power just in the Nashville area alone. There have been linemen, hundreds of them, working around the clock to get people back on the grid. We have been inside homes where people have no power, and some of them finding very creative ways to try and stay warm, right? Anything from setting up a camp inside of their home to bundling together, adding layers. We actually talked to a gentleman who is unhoused, who doesn't feel very comfortable staying at warming centers around the city, but he's staying with a friend, finding ways to stay warm. So, I mean, it really is kind of an all-hands-on-deck operation to make sure you are staying warm. But one thing to note, one local hospital here actually reporting that they've treated more than 40 children for carbon monoxide poisoning. So there is a struggle here to stay warm. And just a reminder to all of those people who may be going through challenges to definitely be careful if you're using those space heaters or a gas stove to try and stay warm, which officials urge people not to do, guys.
Such important information there. What else are we hearing from officials, George, when it comes to keeping safe? I'm sure getting around the threat of trees falling, anything like that. What else are they telling people?
Yeah, Savannah, it sounds like a tired trope, but the messaging from officials here is to be a little patient. And on that note, some customers, power grid customers here, have been complaining that they've actually been receiving text alerts that their power has been restored. Now, this has been going on because as linemen work and restore power, they may get power for a second. That triggers an alert. So obviously, it just adds to a lot of frustration and confusion, especially if you're trying to make plans, because many people here have been staying at hotels around the region to get back home, check on their property, make sure their pipes haven't burst. So believe me, even though days are starting to warm up significantly, there is more cold on the way. And when the sun does set, it really just tends to refreeze out here. So it's really going to be a prolonged event here. And that is what officials have stressed, which is why they're urging patience. Because, again, we're really not out of the woods yet, guys.
And speaking of patience, many Americans have been dealing with widespread flight disruptions all week. Many of them might still be stuck wherever they were over the weekend. Where do things stand with the delays? Are we starting to see things return to normal?
Still early to tell at this juncture, but I looked at FlightAware this morning. You're looking a little more than 700 delays and cancellations, which is a big jump from the thousands that we have seen over the last several days. Now, those numbers could well creep up throughout the day as conditions, start to, move around airports. All of this, of course, creates a ripple effect over these last several days of long time delays and cancellations. But the hope is for a lot of folks that are trying to get from point A to point B is that there is some improvement. And again, just looking this morning compared to over the last several days, I'm going to be the cautious optimist here that it is somewhat of an improvement. So hopefully it stays that way, guys.
All right, George. So at least with the frozen glass half full, we appreciate that, George. Thank you so much.
Let's get a closer look at these bitter cold temperatures with your Morning News Now weather.
Angie Lastman is here with the frigid forecast.
Yes.
Good morning.
Guys, I know we're looking for some kind of warmer air, and we just cannot find it, unfortunately. We don't have quite as many folks under these cold alerts this morning, but still a good chunk of Florida, parts of the mid-Atlantic, stretching to the Ohio Valley, and a couple of spots across the South still included in that as we wake up to temperatures in the single digits for places like Chicago. For your actual temperatures, Cleveland, you're right there with them. But of course, sub-zero feels like temperatures. So minus 14 in wind chill for Chicago. We've got 19 degrees in Nashville, the 30s for Houston, the 20s for Dallas. We are going to be stuck in the freezer, not just this morning, but all the way into the afternoon. You're going to want to bundle up. We've got only the teens for your highs in Cincinnati. Green Bay tops out at 10 degrees. Farther to the East Coast, 23 degrees for Washington, D.C. And a lot of these locations are running 10 to even 30 degrees below normal for this time of year. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, we just can't find the warm air. That goes for tomorrow, too. It's the teens for Columbus, 20s for St. Louis and New York City, 30s for Richmond, and 30s for Nashville. And even by the time we get into the later parts of our work week and into this weekend, we're going to see this next shot of cold air kind of settling in. So just 12 for Detroit on Friday. We've got the teens for St. Louis on Friday, the 20s for Roanoke, and New York City tops out at just 19 degrees as we wrap up our work week. Now, this is going to be kind of an incredible stretch of cold air that we're seeing, and we've got a couple of potential records or some facts to talk about. So let's start with Chicago, where it's the coldest winter so far since 2017, 2018. So it's been a while since you have dealt with temperatures for this prolonged period for this season. We've got to look all the way back to 2017. Meanwhile, Cleveland, if you guys have 9 straight days with highs under 20 degrees, that'll be the first time since way back in the early 1960s, 1961 to be exact. We can't, of course, leave out New York City. So far, we've had 4 consecutive days below freezing. That potentially could be a record if we get to 16 days. And you might think, well, 16 days, that's a long way. Yeah, I hear boos from the studio. Unfortunately, guys, there's a potential that we could break this record. There's a possibility. We really don't look to come above freezing for a while. I understand your concern. I am also concerned by this. Washington, D.C., same for you guys. If you stay, you have 4 consecutive nights below 10 degrees. This is the first time since 1994, so it has been a while. And last but not least, we can't leave our friends in Miami out. We are actually going to see some really cold air make its way into these folks' backyard. So I think for our friends in Florida, we need to be most concerned. The falling iguanas, yes, the last time it dipped below 40, we've got to go all the way back to 2010, and we potentially could be talking about temperatures in the 30s from this next shot of cold air. So I know it's not what we want to hear, but it's what I'm giving you.
So 12 more, I want to go back.
Yeah.
12 more days of this are a possibility.
Well, we'll see if we can break the record.
Yeah.
At least 10.
Okay.
I know. We're getting good use out of our very expensive winter coats, aren't we?
See, also frozen glass half full. I appreciate that.
Looking on the bright side.
I don't think that's going to stop people from being mad at you, though.
Yeah, well, I'll see you in June.
Thanks, Angie.
You got it.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.